Hello everyone, good morning to Orchid Newland Studio. Today is another very nice day in Saigon, Vietnam. It's very sunny outside and we are very happy to welcome you to the second talk show with Dr. Mason Cobb. Please give me a big applause to Dr. Mason Cobb. As you know from the previous talk show, Dr. Mason Cobb is a founder of Victoria Healthcare, which is the first international clinic in Ho Chi Minh City. Now, as he moved from Victoria Healthcare, he begins new venture in longevity and medicine 3.0. And also in the future, he had new plans for Regenetics Clinic and Golden Sunrise Senior Living Facilities. And then next to Dr. Mason is John Ding, the business development of Dr. Mason. So please help me to give me a big applause for John Ding.
Thank you for having me.
Hello, Dr. Mason. So, as I know, the second topic that you will share to our audience today is the Mandela, Live Well, Live Long. Now, can you please share with us what that means and,
Yes, in Tibetan Buddhism, there is a circle. It's the circle of life, the circle of the universe, the circle of God, and that is very, very integrated. There are many, many parts to it, all that integrate in a circle. Likewise, you, in a way, are a Mandela. Within those 30 trillion cells of your body, they're all working together, they're all integrated to make you, you. But if you separate it out, there are several things that must fit together. It doesn't really work if you take one of them out. It's like a puzzle. If you remove one piece, it just doesn't quite look right. And so the parts of that Mandela are the parts that bring good health. We talked about that a little bit last week. The components that go together are good nutrition, which means eating healthy, whole foods, being careful with carbohydrates and fats. It also involves exercise, and that's the motion, that's moving. And whether you're lifting weights, you're walking outside, running outside, it's riding a bicycle, it's moving and exercise. The other is that is missing on our Mandela is sleep. And we find that people who sleep regularly and well, and there are ways of doing that, even if right now you may have trouble sleeping, that contribute to your health and therefore to your longevity. There is also the environmental component that most people don't talk about, but a lot of the air around cities that we breathe is not healthy, and that can also affect your health. Another part is the emotional part. And the emotional part of all the parts that get integrated goes into all the other parts. And the emotion, basically to be healthy, must be a positive attitude toward your life, a positive attitude toward what's going on. And it's interesting, you can sit there and you can say, what have I got to be positive about? I'm old, I'm sick, I don't have any money, and my kids have all left home. Whatever it is, but you're alive. God has favored you with an old age. God has favored you with going on and having experienced so many things. Be grateful. That is the beginning of positive emotions. As you go on, you also have social relationships, which are so important. It's your friends, it's your family, it's your close friends, and it also has to do with your passion for life. As the Japanese would say, your ikigai. What is it that motivates you? What is it that drives you? And even if you're like John's grandfather, where he spends a lot of time in solitude in his garden with its bonsai trees, it's still something that reaches out to others. You go there and you see those beautiful bonsai trees, and you know that within his heart, he is happy and he's proud. That's his ikigai. Another part is managing stress. That is very difficult for all of us. Being alive on this planet is stress. But is it as bad as when the Mongols were attacking? Is it as bad as the many wars and occupations that Vietnam has had to have? No, not really. The stresses in our life are quite small compared to, do we have to worry about being killed? And the other is intellectual. Intellectual also is a way that we control our emotions and a way that we can talk to ourselves and talk to our emotions. But also, as we grow older, our minds just may not be as sharp. And this is part of the process. But like all the other parts of aging, it's something that you can affect yourself. Read, learn, study. When you're with your friends, talk about maybe deeper topics and bring up other things when you're talking. Those are the components of the Mandela, and they all really do fit together.
Thank you, Dr. Mason, for sharing such a very practical application for seniors. So, Dr. Mason, in my hometown, there are peer pressure for a lot of seniors, when they reach certain age, like 60 or 70s. So they have a pressures like getting the kids married. That's the first thing, getting the kids married, and then getting their grandkids. So a lot of them in their 60s and 70s, but that with the modernization and the urbanization, young people now are resistant to have kids. And those people just feel very embarrassed to the other peers, and they feel shame because not having any grandchildren. So from your perspective, how can you share with them in order to convince them to still live a healthy life and ignoring these negative things?
We're kind of caught with a two-edged sword a little bit, John, and that's that our social relationships are so important. And part of that is what do people think of us? And so you might say, well, how about this person? He's 80 years old and he doesn't have any grandchildren. Oh, what a shame. But the other way is that within your own heart, you know what you're doing is right. Your children didn't get married. Other parts of your life are going beautifully. And look at those beautiful parts of your life and always be positive and always be reaching out.
So today we talk about how we talk about a lot of things, but in the topic you mentioned culture perspective, and we mentioned about the word blue zones. So what exactly is blue zone? John and Dr. Mason, can you share?
Blue zone is an area, there are several, there are 5 on the planet, and some say that Singapore should be number 6. And these are areas where the people live to be very old, and living to be 100 years old is not uncommon. And so people have looked at that, and why does this area do so well, live so long, and then one island over, the people are just dying at the usual ages? Well, there are many parts to it, and really parts of the Mandela, but in particular, they have very strong communities, and they have ikigai. And having very close friends, good relationships, that also helps you with your own ikigai.
Yeah, so you know that blue zone. So I remember there's one of the town in Japan called Okinawa, where people they reach the average age of 90 and 100. So they live a meaningful life with purpose, with the motivation, and also with the recognition. So one of the part I think is very important is get yourself recognized and getting yourself acknowledged. How do you think about the acknowledgement vitality for seniors?
I think you must acknowledge yourself, and it's easier if someone is saying, "Oh, wow, you're great. Oh, we love you," but it has to be within yourself that you feel this. And one of the ways, as we've already mentioned, is strong community. And in Okinawa, they have strong community. Another thing is the Okinawa diet, which is now famous worldwide. And it has the components that we had touched on. It's very vegetable-based, it's very fresh food, and it's quite low carbohydrates. And I would say also that the Vietnamese diet, I think, is as healthy as the Okinawa diet if you're more careful with salt, white rice, and oils and deep frying.
Yeah, so today Dr. Mason keep mentioning about a few things that is very important to living a longer, healthier life. That is exercise, that is sleeping, that is belong to a community. That is you have to be positive. You have to fight back all negative thinking. So, can you explain a little bit more about what really is Mandela? Because that is another new word to me. Like, can you explain? I think that's the name of some person, right, John?
Well, it is the name of a person as well. And you could say that Nelson Mandela, who was the first prime minister of South Africa after apartheid, he had spent 20 years in prison because of his standards and his political belief in the equality of all people. And during that time in prison, like many prisoners, he was abused, he was treated badly, but all along he kept a positive attitude, and he stayed on track with actually all of the things that we've talked about here, keeping himself under control, and in particular, not being angry at the people who treated him badly. And from there, he became the Premier of South Africa. And as in the Mandela, where you have so many parts that are integrated into this circle of life, he did his best to integrate all people and all things into the circle of life.
Wow, I appreciate your sharing a lot because you know that's really what it means for what doesn't kill you make you stronger, right? So in your life experience of 79 years, so I believe that you did have some little failure that really set you down for a while, but after that, you surprisingly get up and then win the life again. Could you tell us one example of how you managed to overcome that?
I think that it's not looking at something that didn't work out for you as a failure. I think I've used the example that Thomas Edison, who invented the electric light bulb, had 1,200 models in his lab of light bulbs that did not work. And so somebody asked him, "How did you keep going after all that failure?" And he said, "That wasn't failure. That was just learning that there were 1,200 ways it didn't work." And for me, when you have what others might call a failure, it's a learning experience. It's how you learn things. And I've told some of you this before, that I was reading a book a couple of weeks ago, and so I would ask you the question, what is the university in which you never get a degree, but from which you always have one more class, one more thing to learn? What university is that? It's the university of experience. Even though you're in your 70s, you're in your 80s, you're not going to get your degree. You still have things to learn. And that's how you overcome what others might call failure.
Yeah, so you share a lot about how we control the thing to make us healthier, happier. However, sometimes health doesn't, you can't really control on your health, right? And we talk about genetic, right? So some people is born not completely healthy, you know, so they cannot be as strong as someone who's not. So are you able to share a little bit of the role of genetic versus lifestyle choices?
As a general rule, and again, this doesn't apply 100% to 100% of things that make us healthy, but as a generality, about 1/3 of what happens to us is genetic. 2/3 is what we do with it. For example, there have been studies on how long do people live. And there is a genetic component. If people in your family tend to die at young ages, then you may not live as old as a person who has a family that goes well into old age. But compared to other people with your same genetics, you can extend your life by the way you live. But I also must say that all the time we're playing the odds. We're crossing a street here in Saigon. We're playing the odds that that motorbike is going to stop. We're playing the odds that that bus is not going to get to us before we get past it. And so life is like that. I don't want to get too deep, but quantum theory is that every molecule, every atom, you can't exactly predict where it's going to be right at one time. And our lives are a little like that, but we can sure stack the odds in our favor.
Well, another thing is that you managed about your stress management. It's one of the component in your Mandela's sharing is that, so for example, can you list out the regular stress that you have got to deal with every day? And I know that you are very stressful, yet at the end of the day, you end up very happy and still have a very good sleep. So I remember there was another day that you were late for our meeting, like about 10 minutes because you turned off your alarm because you had such a good sleep, and I'm very glad for that. But like, how can you, I know that's a businessman, you have a tremendous amount of work. So how you manage your stress and example?
I think the best is, as we said earlier, there are times when your brain has to overlie your emotions. And in one sense, look around, look behind us. We're on a modern video camera. We're wearing wonderful modern clothes with fabrics that have been synthesized. Very different than when we were living in caves 50,000 years ago. But within our hearts, within the human beings we are, we're still cave people. And now it's our minds that have been able to expand and become what we are now and build what we have now. But we still have that. If you're a caveman and you're out there hunting the saber-tooth to feed your family, You're very alert, you're watching things, but now all of a sudden you realize that the saber-tooth wants to eat you. Well, now it's not your brain working, it's pure fear, pure emotion, pure stress that's going to drive you to run as fast as you can. And we still have that reaction. When we get stressed, our brains shut down and we're just going on pure fear. So one of the techniques, just a pure technique, is breathing deeply. And you can, the simplest of those techniques is you breathe through your nose a count of 6 seconds in and 6 seconds out. And you do that a few times, and that tends to calm you, and it allows your brain to kick in and say, what do I have to do about this? Not, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But it allows your brain to plan, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this. I'm late, but I can't do anything about that. So I'm going to just take a breath. I'm going to think about how I'm going to do things when I get there, and we will go on.
6 seconds, breathing in,
Yeah, just
counting.
That's nice.
That's
Thank you for
easy.
giving us an example how to breathe to release the stress. It's very nice. Yeah, so today Dr. Mason had already mentioned many things, right? What is the most important lifestyle habit for longevity? And he also touched a little bit about how genetic can impact our life and what lesson we take from the culture that have very high expectancy, such as Japan or Singapore. So are you able to share a little bit more for us of what is the most common mistakes that people do? I know that all of us want to live longer, however, they keep making a lot of mistakes. So are you able to mention what is some of the common mistakes that people need to avoid if they want to live a happier, healthier life?
That is an excellent question. The short answer is whatever's on the Mandela doing the opposite. But if you really break it down, things that will shorten your life no matter what else you're doing, each cigarette that you smoke will shorten your life by 20 minutes.
Wow.
So you smoke a pack of cigarettes, there go 400 minutes off the end of your life. And on. Alcohol is something that we're still debating among the real health professionals. First, any amount of alcohol does, as it metabolizes, create some poison in your body. So there's an argument, don't drink anything. But then we know that one of the most important things that we talked about is your social relationships. And the fact is, alcohol is a social lubricant. It allows, in a social setting, to share, to perhaps be more open in the way that you talk. And so is some alcohol good? Maybe it is. But on the other hand, I heard about 2 friends of mine, neighbors, who a few nights ago polished off 5 bottles of wine. And I'm thinking, no, I guarantee you that did not extend their lives.
Yeah, but I heard from some of my friends that look very young because she say that she drink 1 red wine per day. Is that true? Like I think that, you know, a lot, I heard that from not one person, like a lot of people say, oh, 1 red wine is good for you.
Well, the formula for that, and that's actually a little bit of an older idea, is that for a woman, 1 glass of red wine or the equivalent every day is healthy and actually beneficial. And there's still a lot of research that that's the case. For men, it's considered to be 2 drinks, and now they're cranking that back to 1. But again, we go back to the Mandela. Is it the red wine? Is it the meal that she's eating it with? Is it her positive view of life, whether or not that's forwarded through the red wine? Again, we're integrated, and if red wine is part of how everything integrates, again in a small amount, then God bless you.
So
So-
I think there's two conflicting messages here. On one end, you say that we need to control like alcohol, we need to control, uh, smoking, and then the other hand, you say, oh, we have to try to live happy, to be positive. But what if some people need wine, need smoke to make themselves happy? So it's like that's the two conflicting. So how do we like resolve that? Like what some people say, I'd rather, live 1 year less, but those drinks make me happier. So how, like, what are we trying to like say to those people? How do you control those like different like conflicting things that they have to try to fight again?
Well, it depends on the goals in your own life. If your goal is to live long, that may not be the best philosophy. But you said that, well, I drink wine because I want to be happy, and I don't care if I live long. So if you don't care if you don't live long, do any of these things. But what we're talking about is so you have a long, happy life. And the fact is, if you need alcohol to be happy, you probably do need some kind of help. Yes, if I'm with good friends and enjoying the evening and I have a drink, okay, good. But I'm happy even if I don't do that. And your happiness is from within. And if you have one key to happiness, we've talked about social relationships, how you manage stress, but if there's one key to happiness, it's being grateful. It's being thankful. We touched on that before, is that, yeah, maybe you're old, you're sick, your doctor just told you had cancer. None of this is good, but again, be thankful that you've lived as long as you have. Be thankful that you have a roof over your head, clothes on your body, food in your tummy.
I think it's about taking the moderate level of wine consumption, so which is also making you happy and making things not getting too worse. And Dr. Mason, in my personal family case, is that my grandfather, he is very good at socializing. He has so many good friends, cheers, like parties and celebrations all around the year. So thanks to wine, thanks to his drinking skill, he had a lot of friends. But on the other side of that, his wife, which is my grandmother, she is a person who is very devoted for the family, and she loves my grandpa a lot. So which means she has to take care of the family, and she hasn't go out a lot. So she hasn't got many friends, and she's also not very good at socializing. So, and I think that my grandmother is not a single case. It also applies for thousands of Vietnamese women. When they get married, they devoted wholeheartedly for their families. Somewhat, they forget that they still have their own personal life and their own friends to take care of. So what's your advice for the Vietnamese women when they are getting into family and also getting good socializing? How?
I'm really not the one to speak about the best way for women. Orchid would be much better. But the things that I understand about it are that first, this society is changing rapidly, and it's changing to a more global perspective. And the old pattern where if you're a good woman, you're married, you raise a family, you're good at cooking, cleaning the house, and then you have a fulfilled life. And in the past, maybe that was a fulfilling life. I know that your grandparents are also quite traditional. So it could be that your grandmother, in her heart, is as happy as your grandfather. She's been with the man she loves for 50 years or whatever it is, and she prepares food that everybody says, "Oh, this is so wonderful," and
That alone is
right.
social. Yeah.
But also what I've seen, and again, it's just an observation, but there are a lot of young business women in this country now, in fact, in the world, in the United States, and their views are very different. A lot of them, well, Gloria Steinem, who was one of the first real feminists of the modern era in the US, said, "A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle." And so they're taking the approach that my career is what I want to do. You know, children, family, cooking, all that is separate. But again, it's what brings you happiness. If that brings this young lady happiness, God bless her. And if she really would like to get married and have children and please her husband and please everybody's family, God bless her.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mason, for all the wonderful sharing today that you have given us. And please allow me and John a couple of minutes to summarize some of the important facts to our audience in Vietnamese.
Thank you.
Như Lan rất cảm ơn quý vị đã xem cái chương trình talk show số 2 của bác sĩ Mason ngày hôm nay. Thì bác sĩ Mason đã chia sẻ những cái điểm rất là quan trọng trong cái buổi hôm nay. Tất nhiên là nó vẫn xoay quanh những cái chính, thì chúng ta xin lặp lại những cái mà rất là quan trọng trong cái đời sống hàng ngày mà để cho chúng ta duy trì một cuộc sống, một cái sức khỏe tốt. Đó là bác sĩ Mason lại nhấn mạnh lại cái việc mà chúng ta ăn uống dinh dưỡng. Đó là cái điểm mà chúng ta đừng quên, ăn uống dinh dưỡng. Vì như là Dr. Mason đưa ra một cái ví dụ rất là hay là trong cái Mandela của cái cơ thể là tuy rằng cơ thể của mình là nó là một sự tổng hợp của tất cả những cái bộ phận trong cơ thể. Mình nói mình muốn sống một cuộc sống khỏe mạnh, nhưng mà giả sử mình lại đi ra mình hút thuốc thì nó đã vô tình tiêu diệt một cái bộ phận quan trọng của cái cơ thể mình, và nó giảm thiểu cái số tuổi của mình. Và lúc nãy bác sĩ Mason có nói là sao John, uống một điếu thuốc thì là giảm bao nhiêu ha?
Như bạn thấy là một điếu thuốc chúng ta tưởng tượng là sẽ giảm 20 phút tuổi thọ. Và trung bình một ngày tôi thấy những người hút thuốc họ ít nhất hút một gói thuốc gồm 20 điếu trở lên. Các bạn thấy bao nhiêu thời gian chúng ta bị lãng phí.
Vậy là các bạn nào mà hút một bao thuốc là giảm cả ngày tuổi thọ. Tức là cái sự mà nó những cái hóa chất độc hại nó vào con người là nó ảnh hưởng đến như thế nào, mà đó là mới chỉ thuốc lá đó. Chưa tính được những cái chất mà độc hại hơn thì nó còn ảnh hưởng cơ thể đến như thế nào nữa. Và tất nhiên là Dr. Mason lại lặp lại một số những cái yếu tố khác, thì Như Lan cũng xin được tóm tắt là giấc ngủ, sự quan trọng của giấc ngủ. Cố gắng làm sao bỏ hết những cái suy nghĩ tiêu cực để chúng ta có được một cái giấc ngủ tốt, vì cái giấc ngủ rất là quan trọng trong tuổi thọ. Như Lan cũng có một người bác ruột vì mất ngủ trong một thời gian dài nên đã bị rất là stress và dẫn đến những cái không hay trong cái cuộc đấy, thì cái đó cũng là một cái rất là thật luôn, mà Như Lan thấy trong bản thân trong gia đình dòng họ luôn. Và luyện tập cũng là một cái yếu tố rất quan trọng, và mình cũng đã nói trong cái talk show lần trước là cái quan trọng của việc luyện tập. Và một cái điểm mà Dr. Mason hôm nay cũng nói rất là sâu là làm sao để mình có được một cái cuộc sống có ý nghĩa. Vì cái này rất là quan trọng, vì mình sống mà mình cảm thấy mình không có mục đích, mình không có ý nghĩa thì mình sẽ cảm thấy rất là buồn. Mình sống mà mình làm những việc nào mà xã hội không công nhận, hoặc là mình không được mọi người tôn trọng, hoặc là mình làm cho người khác buồn, tất cả những cái đó cũng làm ảnh hưởng đến cái cảm giác của mình, và dần dần nó cũng dẫn đến cái tuổi thọ của mình nó cũng giảm đi. Nên là các bạn đừng có quên việc việc là mình cố gắng làm sao mình làm những cái hoạt động nào mà mình cảm thấy có ý nghĩa cho mình và có ý nghĩa trong xã hội. Và một cái quan trọng nữa mà Như Lan nhớ từ cái chia sẻ của bác sĩ Mason hôm nay là về những cái mối quan hệ xã hội. Thì những cái mối quan hệ xã hội rất là cần thiết cho chúng ta để cho chúng ta cảm thấy vui hơn, happy hơn, sống trong một cuộc sống hạnh phúc hơn. Thì cũng chia sẻ cho các anh chị là Như Lan cũng đang rất là cố gắng để cho dù là Như Lan làm một cái công việc rất là stress đó, thực ra là hơn 30 năm làm việc trước máy vi tính, vì Như Lan làm là Như Lan học Master Statistics, tức là toán, thì mỗi ngày đều phải lập trình 8 tiếng một ngày, thì là ngồi trước cái máy computer và lập trình, thì cuối ngày nó rất là nhức đầu, rất là stress. Nhưng mà làm sao để mà mình giảm thiểu cái stress đó thì là cuối ngày mình cũng cố gắng mình nấu nướng. Nhiều khi niềm vui không phải là đi ra ngoài party không mà cũng nấu nướng. Và Như Lan cũng may mắn là ở trong California, tức là một cái thành phố rất là đẹp ở San Diego, thì cũng có rất là nhiều bạn bè. Như Lan hang out ăn uống với tất cả các bạn, thì cái đó là cũng tạo niềm vui. Và cuối tuần thì chắc là có một vài khán giả của Như Lan đang xem ở trong chương trình này, cuối tuần thì luôn luôn bạn nọ bạn kia party suốt ngày, thì có thể là những cái party đó cũng làm cho mình vui hơn, mình vui vẻ hơn, mình diện đồ ăn mặc điệu rồi mình ra chụp hình sống ảo với bạn bè. Cái đó cũng có thể là làm cho mình vui, mình trẻ hơn tuổi. Thì lúc nãy Dr. Mason cũng nói thêm một điểm là tùy người, thì mỗi người có một cái cách riêng để làm cho chúng ta happy. Cái happy này không phải là suốt ngày đi ra party bên ngoài rồi uống rượu uống bia thì mới happy. Có nhiều phụ nữ ở Việt Nam thì không muốn ra ngoài xã hội, chỉ muốn là ở nhà. Nhưng mà cái việc ở nhà đó không phải là dở, mà bác sĩ Mason nói nhiều khi ở nhà họ có một cái gia đình thật là yên ấm, có một người chồng và có những người con rất là giỏi giang, thì cái việc mà họ ở nhà họ nấu nướng cho chồng con của họ, và họ có những cái bạn bè hoặc là những cái đứa trẻ hoặc chồng của họ appreciate, tức là giá trị về cái việc làm của họ, thì cái đó cũng tạo cho họ cảm giác rất là tự tin và rất là hạnh phúc trong cái việc làm này. Thì rất là có nhiều cách để chúng ta làm cho chúng ta tự vui hơn và tự có một cuộc sống ý nghĩa hơn, thì cái đó là tùy người. Thì bây giờ Như Lan xin pass qua cho John, chuyển qua John để mà tóm tắt thêm một số những cái điểm mà Như Lan đã quên trong cái cuộc chia sẻ của Dr. Mason lúc nãy.
Trong quá trình làm việc khởi nghiệp và kinh doanh thì bác sĩ cũng như là tôi tin chắc là những người cao tuổi thì đã có không biết bao nhiêu những cái đắng cay để mà đạt được thành công như ngày hôm nay. Vậy thì sau những cái thất bại, những cái đắng cay thì chúng ta hãy coi nó không phải là một thất bại, mà đó chính là một cái bài học để làm sao. Trong tiếng Anh có một câu gọi là What doesn't kill you make you stronger. Sau khi chúng ta thất bại, sau khi chúng ta ngã ở đâu, chúng ta đứng và chắc chắn chúng ta sẽ đứng lại cao hơn, đứng lại mạnh mẽ hơn lần chúng ta đã ngã. Và đó là thông điệp bác sĩ Mason muốn truyền tải đến tất cả các bạn. Và cảm ơn các bạn lần nữa đã tham gia với lại talk show của chúng tôi ngày hôm nay. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Mason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
been
you,
my
John.
pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks.